We have to continue with the conference.
Now the next speaker is going to be an English speaker. I will.
University of Helsinki. He worked for 3 years as a research assistant at the Finnish Science Academy and in a Nordic voting behavior project. He started his sports career as a young boy playing ice hockey, which he ended in his early 20s. Then he was introduced to floorball and made an 18-year-long career in the highest series, playing in Finland and Sweden, winning the national cup for 3 times as a goalkeeper. Welcome, John Liljelund.
So, good morning to everyone. I'm sorry, my Latvian is really, really bad, so my presentation would be really, really short if I would have to speak in Latvian. I have to excuse that I will not be as interesting as the last discussion about how to punish or not punish children in relation to physical education. But if we think about the reality, we represent an industry because sport has become an industry. It's not anymore just fun. It's an industry where money is the determining factor. The theme of the conference is to be active, to engage people in sports, to be able to have young people, youth and adolescents taking part in sports and activate them. There is one problem. The discussion we have had so far, the presentations which has been done, have one issue which they might not think of. The world has changed, and unfortunately, we don't always understand that. The fact is that the youth of today, the people under 20, they don't care. Their time conception is this long, and I mean this long. It's 32 seconds. That's a long time for them to concentrate on something. That's the fact of how society has changed. If you think about the change you had in Latvia in the beginning of the 90s, that change was huge, both from a democratic point of view, from a social point of view, and a political point of view. If you think about how society has changed towards the youth and their perception of time, that is 10 times bigger. I have an 18-year-old son who is a bronze medalist in judo and plays floorball. He's played floorball since he was 6. He started judo when he was 15. And his conception of, he plays floorball because he thinks it's fun. He's in judo because he wants to do something different, totally different. And then to add up to it, he's spending between 2 and 3 hours a day on a computer playing games with guys from Great Britain, Saudi Arabia, United States and Australia, which is a really, really tough task. You understand, he doesn't sleep a lot because they play at night our time. And when I asked him, what do you want to do? I said, hey, come on, I don't care. I just want to have fun. And that's the important word. They just want to have fun. And if we don't understand the persons creating the systems behind sports, if they don't understand the fact that the youth and the people of tomorrow just want to do things because it's fun. It's the same things. I mean, I don't think any of you have involved in love because of the result, right? The result is not the idea, it's the feeling. And the feeling is the part of the logic you have to think about when you talk about sports. So, how do I use this one then? It's far too technical for a guy of 50 years of age.
So, this side?
Yeah.
And then...
Okay, good. So, basically, what I would like to say and where I'd like to start is first of all, the doctors have said that about 2 hours of sitting, which we have achieved so far, will shorten your life with about 90 seconds. So in order to be active, I would like to ask everyone to stand up, please. Very good. Maybe the translation wasn't clear enough, but one of the issues is here. What is to be active? Well, the question of being active is determined, and we have a lot of industry making solution in this time. I have this activity measurement on my hand, and I'm supposed to walk or move about 15,000 steps a day. So far, it seems that I have a slight problem, because so far I have moved 1,022 steps, so I better go walking for a while. Okay, you can be seated, please. So, sport is not about results. Sport is about the feelings, the emotions, the possibility of doing things. And the youth of today has a totally different commitment and understanding of what time is and what commitment is. It's so easy to unlike, and then there is no commitment. Then there is no future. Why do you think Thomas Bach in Sochi, in the opening ceremony, went and took the selfies with the athletes? Why do you think he did that? That's the only way he could directly reflect and communicate with the young generation of top athletes in the world. He couldn't speak to them because we don't speak the same language. That's the truth. We don't speak the same language. We don't think the same thoughts. But we need to find the ways, we need to find the channels in order to be able to see to it. So the words of tomorrow are flexibility, availability, and adaptability. So once more, it is flexibility, flexibility in time and space to do what you think is interesting, availability, the fact that you need to be able to do things when you want to do them, and then there needs to be a space to do it, and then also adaptability. You need to be able to change the formats of traditional sports in order to have youth to participate in them. And a very important factor, you will never have top athletes bringing home medals if you don't have a broad recreational base. There's a study made in Germany by the Football Association who has made a quite extensive study and quite a lot of interesting figures. It went on for 25 years, and they did a study where they looked upon the players ranked the top 100 German football juniors of the age of 11. Out of them, only 3% were among the top 100 players when the players were 21. It's impossible to say if an athlete will become a star of the age of 10, 12, 14, 16. Some mature later, some doesn't really have the instinct or the wish to become a top athlete. And then suddenly, one day, he or she wakes up and thinks, maybe I should try this. Okay, so the reason for talking about this is to trying to explain a little bit the way of how maybe a little bit rebellious sport, floorball, has looked upon the situation. As my job as the Secretary General of the IFF, but I also have, as I was introduced, I also have a basis in political science. I have a basis, I'm a professional, I've been educated as a professional coach. I've been coaching for more than 24 years. I have a sporting career of over 30 years. I'm actually still playing, I'm a goalkeeper. That explains that I'm crazy, right? Because all goalkeepers are crazy. So I think I have a quite wide view upon the matter. And I've been the last 10 years, because I have not been allowed due to my occupation to train adult elite teams. I've been training boys born 96 for 10 years. So I think I have quite an experience of that. But if we think about the International Floorball Federation is 29 years old, so it's quite new. And if you think about the fact that it has taken 30 years from nothing, some guys decided in Sweden to make this an official sport, to become a sport, and I have to disagree with the distinguished doctor from yesterday. Floorball and orienteering will be an Olympic sport one day. Just you wait. So, what's the difference? What's the reason behind the fact that going from 0 to 310,000 licensed players, 2.5 million recreational players in less than 30 years. One, it's easy to play. The entry level is very easy. Compared to basketball, you need to be tall, you need to be able to throw the ball into a small hoop, or in football you need to be able to run for 16 kilometers to be David Beckham or something like that. Or in ice hockey you need a lot of stuff. Floorball is pretty inexpensive. You need sport shoes, some sport clothes and a stick. You can play it anywhere. When we started playing in '86, we played in a squash box, 2 against 2. We put some small goals there and we started playing until we were told that we destroyed the floor and we were thrown out. But that's another problem. So I understand the situation in Liepāja that they might be looking for a new sports venue if there is not enough. The reason for floorball to grow very quickly in, for example, Finland, where, and now listen carefully, we have a population of 5.4 million people. According to the official sports study made by the Ministry of Sports, 354,000 Finns plays floorball at least once a week. That's 8% of the total population. And the sport is 29 years old. That's 8%. And the sport is only 3rd biggest in Finland, like by licensed players. After there is football is of course largest, ice hockey is 2nd largest, and then comes floorball. So the entry level is quite easy. Then on the other hand, it's a little bit different attitude, it's a little bit different, it's a little bit easier to participate in the sport, and it doesn't require as much time and space. And one of the reasons for the sport to grow in Finland was actually the recession in the beginning of the 90s. We had a lot of empty warehouses which were unused. So they were rented to play floorball in because we were not accepted into the communal and municipal sports halls. So we had to find our own places to play. In Finland today, floorball is still, I think, 27 or 28 when it comes to the use of official sports venues owned by the municipality or government, because they are still in the warehouses. Finland's 3rd biggest sports venue is a floorball hall with 7 full-size fields. Has about 1.2 million visitors a year. So, everybody probably hopefully knows floorball in Latvia. You have a quite well-developed federation, you have a quite well-developed sports. It's almost all around the country, as we've heard today. And it's played in a rink, plastic sticks, plastic balls. You can see the ball over there. And it's played 5 against 5 with a goalkeeper. Here comes the flexibility. Floorball originally was played 3 against 3, with or without a goalkeeper. So this is the difference. You can play the sport, you can have the same sport regardless of the format you play with. On the other hand, there is also a different thing. Since the ball is so light, it only weighs 23 grams, the skill level, it's easy to start playing in the beginning, it's bloody hard to be able to control the ball fully. It takes about 10,000 times to be able to find so that you can use your hand-eye coordination to control the ball fully. But if you think about it from another perspective, and you just need the stick, the ball, we have seen, for example, that you can make the goals out of anything. We used to use chairs or whatever when we played with friends in the university in the beginning of mid-80s. We played floorball so that we have chairs as goals. And you don't need anything. You can still play the game. And if I would pick, just randomly, 10 people, give you 10 sticks and put you out in the foyer and give you a ball, you would have a game within minutes. Try that with a number of other sports. It might be difficult. Running is probably the only one which would work out from the start, because you couldn't play the other ones. So, just to give you an idea of the growth and the evolution. Yeah, football is true. You can play football almost everywhere. On the other hand, then when you move big football, small field football to big football, it's a totally different game. Floorball is the same. I will soon show you why. So, if you think about the evolution of the sport, yeah, I don't speak Latvian, but I understand some words. If you look on the evolution of the sports, one of the reasons is that it's pretty easy to start playing. That's the reason that there is a lot of countries coming in. We have said from the start that since the sport, if you don't know it, it's a combination of 3 different sports. It has the same tactical things as basketball. You play with screens. The movement is a little bit similar. It comes with, of course, stick sport like ice hockey. and it has elements of field hockey or football, depending on how you look on it. So it's a pretty similar sport, it's nothing different. The fact is that the problem has been that if you need to play 5 versus 5, which is the normal format, it requires a lot of players. So therefore, we have introduced a 3 versus 3 version in order to get smaller countries, new countries, playing outdoors, in order to be able to grow the sport, because there are no sports hall south of Egypt in Africa. There are none. There are no sports hall in most of Southeast Asia. So you have to play outdoors. You have to play on concrete, you have to play on whatever available thing. But it's growing. For example, we had a seminar yesterday, or actually still today, going on in Fiji, where the local kids started to play on the beach. Yeah, I was told it looked quite interesting, but it worked. A little bit sun maybe, but otherwise quite okay. So, floorball is actually, as it was spoken earlier, is maybe one of the better suitable team sports also for girls, ladies, and that is especially important because there the number of people dropping out from sports is even bigger on the boys' side. There is still a culture in the Western world where sport is related to what boys do. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist that much with girls. I have a 14-year-old daughter. I pretty much know what they are up to, and they are, the sporting girls are considered freaks by the more posh girls, because hey, you get sweaty and it's awful. The target group of floorball today probably is not 12 to 29, it's probably 7 to 29 or something like this. It's an easy sport to start, it's an easy sport to continue. The first generation floorball players, we still play. I'm 50 years old. I got a very angry email yesterday because we are supposed to have a game tonight, or at 6 o'clock. My plane lands at 7 in Helsinki, and they were asking, where the hell are you? You are supposed to be here. And I said, sorry, I'm trying to work. But no, hey, you're supposed to come and play with us. So, there is a possibility. And the reason now, what I'm trying to get at, is more a question than about the values. The values of the sports are related to the way we conceive and think about how to activate youth. I don't say we have the answers. I don't say we have done it the right way. I just say that we had the chance and the fortune to have something or be part of something which made a small difference. And that's probably the reason that it's possible to create the sport. We don't have a lot of money. We actually have no money at all compared to a lot of other sports. So, if we think about the values, we talk about the target groups. We have a young audience, which may be one of the key factors. It's the entry level is quite low, the costs are inexpensive. And one thing is the time, the distance from starting playing to having fun is very short. I'll give you an example. The Finnish army, the obesity question in our countries is of course the same. The Finnish army decided 2.5 years ago that because the problem of the recruits, we have an army where everybody needs to go in Finland, so they started 2.5 years and introduced floorball as compulsory in the recruit stage. So every bloody soldier in the Finnish army plays floorball twice a week for the first 8 weeks. They don't go running, they play floorball. Because they came to the conclusion it's easier to get a person to run after the ball than to go running on the tracks when it's dark and rainy and cold outside. Quite clever guys in the army, yeah, no problem. The Swedish army did the same 1.5 years ago, taking the sport. Just an example of how you can use it and what there is behind it. The doctors uses floorball for person over 65 years who have heart problems, and it's called walking floorball. The only rule, which is different, you are not allowed to run. Not that they might be able to run that much, but you're not allowed to run. I have seen them play. It's really fierce, because they walk very, very fast to get to the ball. And you can play it on a field, and this is like, you can play it on a field which is 10 by 5 meters, 2 against 2. 5 minutes, that's enough per day. Just an example. So there is a lot of things and a lot of ideas of how to use the sport, which we have tested during the years, because we haven't had the possibility to break in through media. We have had to create our own media. Therefore, I believe that we are quite well suited, and that was the reason I said that I saw an IOC, International Olympic Committee, ranking list of use of social media, and I think floorball was somewhere on the 17th or 18th place out of, there are 32 Olympic federations. And that tells you something when it comes to the use of the social media. And we haven't even seen the start of what social media will actually do for us in the future. Yes, we are challenging, that's probably our problem, but we need to be, we are quite young still. Even, age is not a number, age is a field of state of mind. And the target group, these people are gathering the first experience. If we all together, if we can give the youngsters, the youth of tomorrow, the adolescents and the people of tomorrow, if we can give them the feeling of having a part of sport, doing sport, giving them, it's not about the results. There I disagree with the previous talker. I would say it's definitely about having a good feeling of what you are doing. That the fact that the thing you do lifts the endorphin level and you feel good after having run or walked or whatever bloody thing you have done. That's the key to it. Therefore, the sports industry, the government and the sports organizations, even the teachers needs to change this, in my view of mind, is the way we sell sports. The way we give opportunities for youth to take part in sports. And it's not about youth anymore, it's about you. It's about the generation 25 to 55. Hey, if we don't do sports, our children will have to pay a really lot of money to keep us well and in hospitals when we are 55 to 85, because the life expectancy is going to go up by 15 years during the next 50 years. So if you before, you were supposed, a Finnish man was supposed to die when he was 72, in 10 years it's going to be 92. And if they don't do anything, come on. Oh yeah, sorry, they drink alcohol, but that doesn't count. Okay, so if we look then a little bit on the things, and this is a cluster insight about the floorball players. Why do we think, what's the motivation? It's easy to start, there is a will to play, you want to be part of a community, you want to be part of something different, and you can play on your own level. The value is the fun, it's the motion, it's the participation. Those are all similar for a lot of other sports. The challenge is, of course, the competition of time. There are other interests in the society. There is not enough venues, there is not enough places, there might not be enough equipment to play. And then the awareness of acceptance. Floorball, they often say, yeah, but it's the ice hockey players who didn't make it. Hey, look at me. I didn't play for the Finnish U19, 18 team. I was just on their camp. So that's again one situation. The other thing is, of course, also the excitement and entertainment and belonging to a group. That's very important. And the fact that you are different. Why do you think skateboarding, wakeboarding, snowboarding, parkour, why do you think they are hip at the moment? Sports climbing. Why are they so popular? What do they have different to the traditional sports? Hey, they are individual. We have moved a society from being, well, some of you more than others, due to the system you had before, moved from something which was a very, very controlled group-wise society to a very, very individual society. The so-called freedom of choice is brilliant, isn't it? The problem is only that most of the inhabitants make the wrong choices every day and every time, if you think about what it will cost the society in the future. And this is the reason why those sports, they are dangerous. They are dangerous. It's pretty dangerous to climb the walls and parkour and skateboarding. Everybody knows that they fall all the time. And wakeboarding, okay, it needs a hell of a lot of money to be able to have the boat first to go out and do the stuff. But they are the things which are hip now. 10 years from now, who knows? You had martial arts in the 70s. You had skiing, downhill snowboarding in the 80s, beginning of the 90s. And this is something we need to keep in mind when we are looking on it. So, why do we think that floorball is unique in one thing? We believe that the involvement level, that you can play it anywhere, anytime, is really important. And now I'm talking about the recreational sport. And as I said before, without a broad recreational sports, they will never be top athletes. You need 100 recreational players to get one top athlete, at least. In some sport, even more. And then you need a lot of other things to happen in order to make that athlete become. On the other hand, in floorball there is a quite strong sports community. One world, one ball. That's our slogan. But also the players follow it, and they use it, and they create other stuff. I don't say that we are different in that distinction, but there is one difference to the more traditional sports. And that is that there is a lot of players who play it just for fun, who doesn't even think of doing it on elite level. And that's something which is needed to think about. The other thing we have done in this respect is also the fact that we have looked upon the situation from a school perspective. And we built a school curriculum in order to have a ready-made package for school teachers all over the world in order to be able to look upon how to introduce a sport they know nothing about. They don't understand the logic. We in the Nordic countries, and the Baltics for that matter, we have a culture of stick sports. We have ice hockey. That's in our genes. We know how it works. So it's easy to introduce another sport. In Australia, for example, they've never heard of ice hockey because they haven't even seen any bloody ice. So for them, field hockey, and this is a totally different thing because that's a good example. In field hockey, you can't do anything, and in floorball, you can do whatever you want. And that's the most further way you can go from each other. So, our vision is to create a situation where as many people can play the sport in any way they want, anywhere they want, and however they want. And now we are trying to get to the activation part. So, youth of today is not interesting to stay on a line waiting for them to do something. If they have to wait for more than the 32 seconds I mentioned before, they will lose interest. The problem is that most of the practices in most sports are based on drills, where most of the athletes wait for most of the time. And this goes for, Latvia is not going to be different. This goes for most sports. We have actually been looking with the top of the national team coaches from all the team sports in Finland, as the Finns are at the moment good in pretty much all the team sports apart from football, which we can't really play at all. But that's because we only have hills which looks like this. They always go upwards. We always have to attack upwards. We probably would lose 5-0 to Latvia as well. We are that bad. So one of the key issues here is to think about the fact where you can activate as many people at the same time as possible in order to have the ball control. It goes both for the elite sports and also the recreational sport. The more ball contact you have, the more fun you will have, the more feeling of success you will have as an individual player. The problem with sport is that first you go, you wait, you go here and you wait to get the ball, then you get the ball and then you give the pass and then you wait for 35 seconds and think, what the hell should I do this time? That's the traditional way of how coaches are coaching sports. Doesn't make a difference which sport you're talking about. So, what we want to do, and what we want to try to see is we have built, the Finnish Federation and the IFF has been a part of it, has built an activation model in order to see that depending on the number of people in the groups, you divide the available space. And depending on the size of the space, you divide the space again. But the basic idea, instead of the traditional way of making a practice, has been that you have the warm-up, right? You run, and then you go to first the so-called personal skills, where you go with the stick. Come on, I played ice hockey. I know about 50 ice hockey coaches in Finland, and they pretty much said, oh, yeah, well, it's pretty much the same. And then you go to a general motorical skill training or a tactical training, and then you play mini games, or you play a game in the end of practice. That's in principle most team sports how it looks. The idea here is that you don't do this 1, 2, 3 if you have a space which is big enough, but you do them so that you divide the groups into 3 different groups. So you have 25 players, you divide them equally in 3 groups, and they each do, for 15 minutes, they do one part of the drill, which means that you can increase the ball contact time with about 80% compared to an ordinary practice. Because in an ordinary practice there is so much waiting time because there's just one ball. Here there are 3 or more balls being played at the same time, which makes it possible. The problem is, of course, if you only have a small field, not very much space, but still a lot of players, then you need to do the traditional way. You need to go stage by stage, which of course means that because there is not space enough in the venue, which is a problem if you play in a small school. Also the reason or the idea behind it is that in the activational play-ins, the field can be divided. This might not be that interesting, I'm going to go through it quite quickly, but I'm just trying to explain to you how they have been thinking about the parts. So it can be, the field can be divided into 4 equal big areas. So you start from the corners and you build the drills or the games from the corners. You can walk across the field, then you can actually have 40 people. I think the maximum I've done when we have done development seminars we're in China, we had 70 players on a field 40 times 20 meters, and they were all doing something at the same time. There wasn't too much space, but we were still able to do it. Or then you can have, you can divide the field in 3 parts, so you can play 3 games or do some kind of personal skills training in the middle and games. So just to give you an example, so you divide the field like this, and you have 4 stations. Now you can have 30 people training at the same time, instead of having 10, which would be the normal thing to do. Just throw the ball in the middle. And just to give you an example of a practice, how it could be built, this is a passing exercise and a shooting exercise. And the idea is you can do this in one corner and then do something else in the other corner where you don't need the goal. And then at the same time you can activate the players and have the players doing more. Or you can do a passing exercise or a 1-against-1 exercise or a 2-against-1 attack exercise across the field, and at the same time have 6 groups, then giving you a total of 24 players easily, and all are in contact with the ball at all time. And still the way this has been built and the way the instruction has been given to the coaches, you can run it with 2 coaches. You don't need more people, which is of course a key issue because in floorball, unfortunately, most of the teams have 1 coach. If they have 2, it's already quite good. So here again, just an example. So a pass back, then a long pass to the other player, and a pass to the middle guy who pass backs, running, and then we go from there. Just to illustrate the way we do it. Or then we can play 3-against-3 games in 3 different times, which means that we play maybe for 35, 40 seconds active time, and then we substitute the players. So then we can include 36 players easily on a very small field of play. And this is important because most of the countries which are here, for example, have been part of the Be Active project, the Erasmus project, are in countries where there is a limited amount of space. So this is a real thing that we have thought about quite a lot in order to be able to see where we are going and how we are doing. Okay, then I'm a little bit of lack of time, maybe also due to the previous speakers, but just some ideas of activation tools. One very important thing is you need to speak to the consumers in a way the consumer understands. So if you want to sell floorball to girls and young women, it has to be pink. Hey, come on. If you have to sell it to 17-year-old guys, then probably pink is not the color. It might be some other features, rock and roll or some other kind of heavy metal music related. And now you are laughing, but I will show you the results. The Finnish Floorball Federation started this Girl Floorball is Diamond in 2009 due to the reason that there was really little girls. Floorball was growing really rapidly in Finland, but there was really few girls. For example, in France, they are also doing this kind of girl activation project, and they have more girls. The average ratio is 80 to 20 in the world. There is 80% are male players, 20% are female players, and this is what we try to change. But this is the way. This is the thing which the girls, the young girls who play, who said that they should look like. And then these girls are the elite players who are here on the right side, and then the players on the other side. So what they did, they started with a lot of things. They took the sport to the girls, to the schools. They went into other events and told them that there is a possibility of playing. And they let them test first. Yeah, in the beginning it was a little bit, but then it started to pay off. And one idea, one very important thing is that there is this how you brand the sport, how you sell it, how you package it. If we take the World Floorball Championship, I was yesterday in the Riga Arena looking up the setup for the Eurobasket. And we will play our Men's World Floorball Championship there next year. And we just discussed with my colleague that, well, probably it will look totally the same. If there are no athletes in the venue, you won't see a difference. The setup looks the same. We have had 100,000 spectators in the previous World Championship. We believe that the Latvians will come and watch the Latvian team playing, and we will probably have a lot of fans from Finland and Sweden and Estonia, etc. So it probably much will be quite the same. So what's the difference then? And what they've seen here so far is that until 2013, the increase was 25% in players through this activation campaign. The number of teams increased with 36.5%, and the number of women's teams increased with 12%. So it's a question of how you sell, what image you give the sport, how you sell it. And of course there again, it's important to think about what, and I don't know if you heard about the radio station WIIFM. Has anyone heard about that radio station? It's a very personal radio station, because it means, what is there in it for me? That's how we are today. If I'm not touched by the message in the commercial or on the market, I don't bloody care, right? If I'm not interested, I'm not interested. Doesn't make a difference. So this is the importance. We also believe that this is one of the reasons that floorball has grown quite quickly, that we have been able overall and globally to attract also female, especially young girls and women. Another tool, just as an example, you learn playing floorball by playing games, not by doing drills. One idea here, one thing we have been working with is actually we have built a mini-games application. It is working on your iPads, it's working on your telephones, but the idea is different. And now listen carefully, because I forgot yesterday to put this picture. You think about the fact that I would take these gentlemen over here and the one lady, there are 6 persons, and let's say that two of them are former ice hockey players. So they are pretty good. One has never seen a floorball sticks, and then 2 doesn't like sports at all. Traditionally, these 6 persons would divide themselves, that the 3 who have played floorball or ice hockey would be on one side, and the ones who haven't any sports experience would be on the other, and the ones with experience would trash the shit out of the ones not knowing how to play. In this game format, randomly, they are divided. You play the game in 2 or 3 minutes sets. The winner gets a point, and the winner is every individual. Then you change, and randomly there is new teams. You play for 10 times, and after that you take those players with most points, makes one team, and the 3 with less points makes one team, and then they play together. The fun thing is that you would think that the ones with most points would win. We play this every Friday at the Finnish Federation IFF office. We have national team players, and we have players who have never played, like for real. Actually have never played before they came to the office. It's not always the top players who win. It's not always. It's actually quite seldom the players who have most points after 10 rounds, when we play the grand finale for 10 goals, who wins. Because the sports adaptability is so big. It's a question of how you can find and how you can see the players. And this makes it possible then to do this. And this is a way, we believe, that this tool, it's available, it's called Floorball Points Master. It's available on all the application stores, it's for free. And the idea with it is it's a tool that the sports teacher can use and say they just need to, there is also a paper version, of course. So you can print a paper, you can decide do you have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 players, put the names down, and it will tell you who plays in which period together with whom. And the players. And now comes the fun part. This is used by the men's national team, Finnish men's national team, and it's used in kindergarten. And it works equally well. And that's one of the ideas we have tried to find a way of activating people. It was created for floorball players, but it has become something everybody can use. And the last example, I already mentioned, the school curriculum, which is a 12-lesson build-up, which gives the teacher or the club person a possibility of run a lot of drills, a lot of game applications, game modules in order to be able to give it. It has one feature, but unfortunately I don't have my computer here. The idea is that every drill are animated, so you can actually see, even if you wouldn't know anything about floorball, you would know where to go and where to move. I hope I have been able to give you, I think the conference has been really interesting. There's been really a lot of good inputs. I must excuse myself. I wanted to be a little bit provocative in order to get you to think. But I really believe that if sport doesn't change, the way we think, we will have a huge problem with the fact that the number of athletes, we are now on the winning side, but let's say 10 years from now, if we don't modernize, if we don't change the way we think about the sport, how it's played, the format, we will not have as many players as we have today. Because they don't care. If it's not fun, they're not there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One quick question I will take as an example basketball. For example, from Latvia, if you want to get the free education and you're talented, so the most popular way is Spain or United States. If we talk about floorball, if you're a talented young man, so is there opportunity, and where is the opportunity to get the education and maybe make a career in floorball?
Well, then you have to, Then you have to be really, really good, because there is no money in floorball. So I would say that in floorball, maybe, of course, if you're talented, the sports schools are, of course, free in Finland. But then you need to be like among the top 20, 30 in the country to actually make a career out of it. So I would say that is a weakness of the sport, but it's also an advantage, because it means that you don't play floorball to become rich. You don't play floorball to get a career. You play it because it's fun.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Applause for John.
Thank you.